Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm your host of Inside the C-Suite, where execs get real about leadership, impact, and what truly drives high-stake decisions. I'm really excited to have on the show today Paul Pasolli. He is a former executive in the energy business, turned founder and president of a nonprofit foundation called CareerSpring. CareerSpring helps first-time college graduates from a low-income background seek career and employment advice. There's over 33,000 students that are part of the program. I think over 180 board members potentially. And I don't even know how many advisors, but Paul's going to tell us all about it. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Paul, I met you through networking. I hosted an event in Tennessee with one of your advisors. She's just a beautiful, lovely woman. And we bonded over a pair of cheetah shoes. So she was seeking a new position, and I kind of just was delighted with her and connected her to my network. And next thing I know, I was getting emails and things that I needed to meet you. And we were actually on a call when you proceeded to get more emails that we should meet. So this young lady that's an advisor for you said, you have to meet Paul. You have to hear about CareerSpring. This is changing the world. And I had to meet you, and I did. And I am so excited to say that I'm one of your little board members now, pushing forward the CareerSpring
Yes, thank you.
Go team. First of all, you were an executive in the energy business. How do you go from that to both feet into a nonprofit foundation?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we start with what I did in the energy business for a minute, and then I'll tell you how I transitioned. But I spent 20 years in the energy business. I moved to Houston to work for, after business school, to work for Enron. I think many of the listeners the older listeners will remember that company. But
the younger ones too.
Yeah, maybe, right? They learn about it in business ethics classes. But I left Enron before it collapsed, but I then took a job at a company called Calpine, and then I went to Bear Stearns. And so that was a really challenging, volatile 20 years. I ultimately went to JP Morgan and ran our global energy trading business. So ended with a company that was very successful, but I had a really wonderful 20 years in the energy business. Loved it, made some incredible friends, loved the intensity of the trade floor environment. I think that will always be a special time in my life. But I think when I was about 30, late 30s, I started to really wonder, like, hey, what are my priorities? Like at JP Morgan, I ran our global energy trading business, which basically meant I was in Singapore, London, Calgary, New York, Houston, doing that rotation, some Hong Kong thrown in, and I was missing some really important moments in my kids' lives. And I really started to appreciate that maybe I wasn't doing anything for anybody but myself, right, from a career standpoint. And so I started reading books and like Halftime, a book called Halftime, and From Success to Significance, and I just started to think maybe I need to be doing something different. Well, I guess in my early 40s, I was a volunteer at a high school called Cristo Rey Jesuit in Houston, a school for low-income students. And the founding president was this guy, Father Martinez, and he was a great, amazing guy. And he was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. And so we were all crushed because he was such a special person. And then a couple weeks later, I was on the trade floor at JP Morgan, and my wife called and she said, "Hey, are you sitting down?" And I said, "I can be." And I sat down. She said, "Listen, TJ thinks you should be, that's Father Martinez, thinks you should be the next president of Cristo Rey Jesuit." And of course, I'm like humbled and honored, and I'm on a trade floor crying, right? I'm an emotional guy.
No.
And but I was also thinking there has to be someone in this city that knows about how to run a high school, because I clearly don't. And to be clear, running a trading business is about as far from running a high school. But I took the time to meet with the board, and they were really in a challenging situation because I think it was March or April, and they needed someone to come in as interim. And so I left JP Morgan thinking I could do anything for 6 months. Let me go help out. But I got there and really fell in love with the mission, the students, and the families. And I ended up spending 5 years. I put in my name to be the official president. They selected me, and I stayed at the high school. I basically was the headmaster of a high school from 2014 to 2019. And that got me down this path. That fundamentally changed the way I view the world and got me down this path to now, start a new nonprofit called CareerSpring.
Well, it's a great story. And it was Father Martinez, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, made the right selection, because if he looked back and saw what you were doing now, I wonder what he would say. He'd be proud of you for sure.
He would have told me in 2014 when I was in New York. In fact, I was spending every week in New York that year. I'd leave on Sundays, come back Thursday. And if you would have told me that 6 months later I'd be leading a high school, I would have said, you're absolutely crazy. And we all have a tendency to have these big plans and our desire to control things around us. And I think that was a moment in my life where I could definitely look back and say, okay, I'm not in control, and I can, I do the best I can. I've got plans, vision, etc. But that's a mistake to think you are in control. In this case, turned out to get me on a path for the second half of my life that's been wonderful and very fulfilling.
So as you look back, do you see kind of my partner likes to say all the time, let it happen organically. Do you see where maybe your path was laid out organically for you? Sometimes we have 20/20 vision when we look back, or was it still kind of just a shock that it landed where it did?
Great question. I saw it clearly a few months after I joined the school, really clearly. And I'll tell you a quick story that will explain some of it. I was in a men's group, and a couple years earlier, before I left JP Morgan to go to Cristo Rey, and I had taken some time off from JP Morgan, literally a sabbatical, to go spend time with my family. We traveled the world, and I coached their sports teams. I wanted to dig in with the family, and it was great. But one of the days I was volunteering at this high school, and one of the days I went and I worked on their community service day and went with the students to a place and made sandwiches for the day. And hopefully the listeners don't think I'm a bad person for what I'm about to tell you. But at the end of the day, I literally was driving away in my car, and I was thinking, you are like, you just spent the day making sandwiches. Like, is this really what God intends you to do? Like, what am I doing? And I told a friend the next morning, and he said, don't you dare, think that you're too good to make sandwiches. And by the way, that may be exactly what God intends you to do. And so I was like, okay, well, 2 years later, when I ultimately took the job at Cristo Rey Jesuit, this guy sent a text to me. He said, hey, how are those sandwiches looking now? And the reason I bring that up is because all those events, like if I had gotten a call 3 years earlier to go and work at a high school, I would have said, hey, thanks so much. I'm really honored, but that's not me. I run trading businesses. So I needed a lot of things to happen in my life. I needed to take some time off. I needed to slow down. I needed to spend more time with the kids. I needed to understand the mission for me to really take that step. And so, like you said, it happened, and I could only see it after the fact.
Yeah, which is, it's great that we can look back and reflect, right? I think that's called, you have to be a mindful person to be able to reflect backwards for sure. So, Paul, I'm sure you had a defining moment, coming up and navigating through your career. What was yours?
So I did have some defining moments. I think the first thing was when I left Enron. People thought I was crazy. This is more of a leadership thing, but Enron at the time was considered the strongest energy company, energy trading for sure, but energy company in the world. But I was like 29 and pretty naive. and I wanted to be responsible. I wanted to be in charge kind of thing, right? And so I left Enron to go to this company, Calpine. It was more of a startup energy company. They were building power plants. They needed someone to run their trading business. So I left, and ultimately Calpine grew so quickly that I became president of Calpine Energy Services at 32 or 33, running a very big business. And Calpine was building all the power plants, or a lot of the power plants in America. So the stock was just ripping. So it went from like 40 to 450, and which was really great at the time. And I was doing all the earnings calls and investor days. It was a lot of fun on the way up, not so fun on the way down. A whole nother story, but that was a defining moment for me because I was a young man thrown into a high profile role. The other thing I'll mention is the trading business at Calpine needed capital. So Calpine was using all their money to build power plants. We needed capital. So we did a joint venture with Bear Stearns. And for the listeners that know about Bear Stearns, that had its own story with the mortgage crisis and things. But it was an investment bank that was around for 85 years. And I had the opportunity to fly to New York and to present to the senior managing directors of Bear Stearns. And on stage with me while I was presenting were two guys, Jimmy Kane and Ace Greenberg, who I think both of those men are passed now, but they were two titans of Wall Street. And I'm up there for 15 minutes and they're listening to me. And I remember just like leaving there saying, okay, like I felt like, okay, this is a big moment in my life. And it gave me the confidence to lead at a different level. Like I was no longer someone trying to break in. I felt like at that point, I kind of made it. But the thing that was the most defining moment for me, or had the biggest impact, was when Calpine filed for bankruptcy. The founder was this great man named Pete Cartwright. And he had founded the company when he was 55. He was a visionary. He knew that all the coal plants in America would be shut down and we needed new power plants. And so he went all in. And like any story like that, drilling oil wells, building power plants, timing's everything, right? And he was on the right track, but then the power markets dropped and ultimately they had to file. Well, the board, this guy was early 70s. The board stepped in and fired Pete. And I was an executive vice president at Calpine. I guess I was one of the few that didn't get fired because I was leading a separate business. But I was 35 years old, and that started a process of discernment for me about what I really wanted to do with my life. I always thought I wanted to be CEO of a public company. After seeing Pete give 20 years of his life he founded it. It was his company, only to get whacked, right?
Yeah.
That was like, okay, that's when I started thinking, do I really want to do this? Am I going to work my entire life so when I'm 65, I'm CEO of a public company and they ultimately fire me? There's got to be something more. So that would probably be the most defining moment in my life.
Yeah. And I just heard the Italian say, get whacked.
Correct. Yeah.
No, that's a really great, bold story. I think everybody has the kind of that moment that they understand. So when we met, you were sharing, CareerSpring and kind of the mission of, and there was an individual, you were speaking of one of your students that kind of came to you. And can you tell us a little bit about the beginning stages of CareerSpring, when you kind of had that aha moment that you wanted to create something for the community?
Sure. I was working at Cristo Rey Jesuit. I loved it there. I really thought I'd stay even longer, but I'd say in about my third year, I started to get concerned about workforce development in the U.S. If 80% of the kids in Houston are low income and the majority of the jobs that their parents have historically held won't exist in 10 years, because of AI, what's everyone going to do for the dignity of work? And I don't know if you saw this, or if your listeners read this article from Good Reason Houston, but it showed a study that they did that showed that from the class of 2017 in Houston, HISD, so the Houston Independent School District, this is high school students, 6 years after graduation, less than 20% of those students are earning a living wage. So that to me is tragic. And so we have a big challenge and opportunity in our country. And I was I was looking at ways that I could have the biggest impact. And I just kept coming back to the students from Cristo Rey Jesuit and the alumni of the school. And what would happen is I'd get calls all the time from alumni saying, "Hey, Mr. Pasoli, do you know anyone hiring a marketing major? Or do you know anyone hiring an engineering major?" And I'd say, "I don't, but give me a day." And I'd start making calls. And I'd be like, "Hey, Christy, this young person's awesome. You should talk to them. Would you give them a chance?" And what happened was almost every time I made an introduction, it resulted in something positive, either another introduction, an internship, a job. So I was really intrigued by the leverage of that, right? That simple action. These students have worked 22 years to get to this point. All I needed to do was to call Christy or send a text to a friend, and it resulted in getting them on path to full employment versus underemployment. That's a great use of my time. Like, how can we do that at scale? What I've been doing for 25 students a year, why can't we do that for tens of thousands? And that's what led me to this path to launch CareerSpring. And we could talk more about what we're doing, but that's really how it all started.
What I love about it is that there are so many people out there just like you. And by you creating this beautiful foundation, you kind of pulled your tribe in, right? So all these other loving, heart-centered professionals are now joining arms with you saying, yeah, we believe in you. Let's do this. And, I was on your board initiation call or trainee call, whatever you want to call it. And you guys asked a question, which was, what was your why? And I thought everyone's why was really, really beautiful. And, and I shared mine, and I'll share with our audience too, is that I never graduated college. So for those of you looking to hire me, if that puts me out of the game, it puts me out of the game. But I was diagnosed with cancer at 17 years old. I had a full paid scholarship to college and had to make a very quick decision of, do I have a family in the future, or do I have a career and no family? And for me, it was very, very important. I wanted to be a mom. I have two beautiful boys, 30 and 32. My 32-year-old is our first generation college student from a low to middle class income family, single mom, and is maybe going on for his PhD, but he's a director of a private Christian university in San Antonio. So that was my why. And I watched these, I've been in talent for 20 years. I've watched these classes, these underserved classes and populations not get a leg up. They don't have the affluency, the network, just it's not there. So the fact that you had this aha moment and you're one helping 25 people, there's other Pauls, there's Christie's and Susie's and whoever else that are doing the same thing. And so when you bring us all together, you just gave our community the biggest hug, right? And hope. And that's what I loved about your mission. And I think that's why everybody was trying to get us together, because it's like, because we're of the same tribe, right? We believe in helping our community. So I just think it's such a cool thing.
Thank you so much. I love that. And yeah, that's sort of the bet that it's funny when we started it. One of the things I was concerned about is, will people have video consultations, right? This was pre-COVID. It was the year we launched in August of 2020. So it was right before it. And I was worried that people may not want to use Zoom. And it's like, well, now we know everybody does. But the bet that we were making is that there are tens of thousands of people that maybe they don't have time to be a mentor, right? Like every Thursday from 4 to 6. That's really tough to do. God bless the people that do that. But that most people would take a call from a young person that wants to be what they are or do what they do as a career. That most people would do that. That there are tens of thousands of people that are looking for that kind of outlet. And you being one of them. And it's funny because every time I meet someone like you, I get more inspired because I'm like, yeah, wow, I just need to keep meeting all the Christies. If I can do that, we'll have 100,000 advisors. And so that's exciting.
Well, and we need more Pauls, right? So that's why you're on this show. So I've heard that inside the C-suite, humbly have heard this, is that it's a little bit like chicken soup for the soul and a mini masterclass, right? So we get to learn the genius of our C-suite leaders. But I've yet to meet a C-suite leader that doesn't have a beautiful story behind them that's out there changing our community. So thank you for gracing us with your presence and your knowledge and wisdoms. It's very helpful. So at CareerSpring, you've kind of got, and I'm learning, guys, so give me grace, but you've got three different paths for people to help. So and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's, if I'm an organization and I'm looking to donate, there's an opportunity to donate funds, right, to keep the mission going. I can volunteer my time. That's another way that I could be of service. And I think there's several different fans that could go. The other thing is, so you've got the donation, volunteering the time, and then you could also be an organization that gives these individuals an opportunity at your jobs.
Right. Yeah. Those are the three primary ways. So we're always looking for volunteers. You can make a video about your profession. It takes 30 minutes. We set you up. It's really easy to do. We have a video library with 550 videos of professionals talking about what they do every day. So that's one way. We'd love to get more advisors. We got up to 1,600 advisors before we just launched our new tech platform. Now we're back down to 800 because we need to migrate advisors over. But if you're looking for ways to give back in a very tangible, efficient way, we'd love for you to consider that, the listeners to consider that. And then we're always looking for partners, both for student side, so community organizations, nonprofits. We give CareerSpring away for free to all the students and all the organizations that serve them. And then on the employer side, always looking for companies that are looking to hire entry-level workers, internships along the way. So we love introductions to companies that may be looking for great talent. And these young people are amazing.
And if you know young people that could use this assistance, right? You guys work with a lot of the colleges too to make sure the message is out there that there's help for them.
Yeah, we have 550 partners now. You mentioned that we've had 33,000 students register. They come from 1,250 different colleges, universities. So we're really all over the country. And then we partner with those colleges and the nonprofits. There's so many nonprofits in America that are focused on getting kids to and through college, right? We're going to find these first generation and or low income students. We're going to help them get to college, and then we're going to help them get through college, but they don't have the resource to do the career side. So we bring them CareerSpring for free to help them on that next leg in the journey, because we believe everyone deserves the dignity of work.
So for the advisor piece, and I'm really putting you on the spot here. If somebody wants to come be an advisor, I know there was some different things I heard. There's different opportunities, not just, you could spend time with the student to review a resume or do a mock career interview, or talk to them about what you do. And if somebody's interested in marketing and they think it's one way, but they talk to you and realize it's 80% admin, maybe not so much, right? So are there any other avenues like that where people listening might say, I've only got an hour a month, or my organization has a volunteer day, this would be cool? Any other guidance?
You summarized it well. They can go to careerspring.org. There's a button, I think it says I'm interested or something like that. Fill out the form, and we'll ask the questions like, would you consider making a video? Would you consider becoming an advisor? And you can put your own availability in right into the system. So you could block it out to where you're only doing 1 hour a month. So it's an efficient way to give back.
Well, Paul, so CareerSpring's moving and shaking. You've got some really amazing teams supporting it. Do you have a story that sits with you from a graduate, that a good aha story, a chicken soup for the soul story from CareerSpring?
Well, one of my favorites is a story from like our first year. I think we just did our 900. We got our 900th offer because we do direct placements too. Right? Our vision, to be clear, is that every first-gen low-income student in America finds meaningful, high-quality employment. We're not going to place every student, right? But if we can empower them with the skills and resources you need, and the networks and internships along the way, they should be able to find work on their own, right? That meaningful, high-quality job afterwards. So that's really our business model. But we do direct placements, and one of the first direct placements that we had was a woman, and we called her to tell her that she got the job. And she said, kids, mommy just got a great job. And like, you don't hear that very often, right? Most of our students don't yet have kids, but in your case you did, right? And that to me was so powerful. And it turned out that was the highest paying job that she had ever had. And that to me was like, I told the team, like, if that's the only thing that we did last year, it was worth all our time.
Oh my gosh, for sure. That's amazing. I remember I used to run lots of recruitment teams, and everybody always wanted to do offers. That was the most favorite thing was offers because you're always calling with good news. You're not calling to reject somebody. Yeah. And they always love that part. So, you just took me back getting to hear their stories of how somebody was excited or how they changed that. Because I think it's a very, I know it's a very important thing because when you impact a human and it impacts their ability to navigate in our world, it helps them, helps their family and their community. It just keeps giving. And that's what you do, and that's what CareerSpring does. So it's just a beautiful thing.
Thanks.
It's such a great karmic
Thank
exchange
you.
of energy. No, for
Yeah,
sure.
one of the things that I'll just, like, mention on that point too is that I'm very excited about the fact that we have those 33,000 students that have gone through the program. Most of them will be professionals in their careers, and what's exciting to think is I'm getting calls now from many of them in emails saying, "Mr. Fasoli, I just wanna thank you for CareerSpring, and how do I become an advisor?" So you think about, like, the
Oh,
next generation, what when
yeah.
all of these students are professionals 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and they all wanna give back as advisors, what's possible then? Like, our vision is that we're gonna go to 100,000 students by in another 5 years. So we're just about to celebrate our 5-year anniversary, but why not 250,000? Why not 1,000,000, right? Who knows what's possible if all these advisees become advisors? So that's exciting too.
I sent you a little questionnaire before we got on the air. It's just a way for me to get to know the human that I'm about to interview. And one of the things that you said, it was really profound for me, and I think it might be one of your quotes coming out of this interview, but you said something about a life focused on significance versus success. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that because a life focused on significance versus success. That was very profound for me to read, and I must have read it 3 or 4 times because it just hit my heart. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that statement and kind of I think it's evident in what you've been saying, but I'd love you to share a little bit more.
Well, first I have to say that that's not my quote. That was the title of a book that I read, but it really hit home. It really hit home for me when I was about at my midpoint in life, right? It was like late 30s. I read that book, and there's something about, especially in the energy trading business, it's really about the next bonus. How much wealth can you accumulate? There's a mindset that comes along with trading. And I love that business. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think it is worthwhile for everybody to take some time at some point. It's never too late. Take some time, and I even say this to the 21-year-olds. Like, figure out who you are, what your mission is, what are your values, and especially if you're kind of midlife, what is it you want to accomplish for the remainder of your life? What's important to you? If it is like, to become a billionaire, well, then good for you. Like that's fine. I'm not throwing any shame on any of that. But but I think a lot of people, if they took the time to really think about that, like I read a book one time that said, write your epitaph, which is a bit morbid, but okay, what is it you'd want your gravestone to say? And if it's like the billionaire person, well, fantastic. Go get them, right? That's great. But for me, I took the time to really think about it. It's like, no, I actually, what I want to be able to reflect on at the end of my life is that I was a man for others, that I had an impact, that I used a lot of luck, right? There's a lot of luck involved in all this, and all that stuff that happened earlier in my life, that I leveraged that to help other people. And so for me, that was more important. Like, that was more important than being CEO of a major company and being able to fly in a big plane.
Private
Private
jet.
jet. Yeah, exactly.
No, I think that's a really beautiful thing, and a lot of people that listen to this, are either, leadership executives or on the track of being a leader or an executive, and it is great to hear from people that are successful like yourself, how you came up, what you learned, and what resonates with you, and, there's always commonalities I find in leadership, right? But a couple of the things that you said that held true to me because 'cause I'm a woo person, I'm all about energy. you've been in the energy business before you were in the energy business. You've always been trading energy. You're trading human energy now, right? So I think that land, I was like, oh no, Paul, you've always been
It's
doing
cool.
energy business.
That's a good take. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
You're totally trading energy and you're like creating these baby gremlins, these baby advisors, these future rock stars. And what I do because there's a certain population. I've been in talent for over 20 years, and you are giving the community a leg up and you're helping them feel inspired and that they're not alone. It's super important. Couple of questions for you before we close, because I hear a lot of the same things. And with what you and your organization do, I've heard that you can't fix generational work ethic. So we got a lot of people out there that think that the younger ones coming up are lazy. We are working in a multi-generational honeycomb of diversity, which is great. But what do you say to those naysayers that say, I don't want to hire these young kids or I don't want to hire these interns. I need someone with experience. How would you approach that?
I guess it depends on who I'm talking to, but at a really high level, I think most Americans would love to see our economy continue to be strong. Most Americans want us to continue to have capitalism in the United States. And I'm a capitalist, to be clear. But capitalism only works if you have a strong middle class. And unfortunately, over the last 20 years, the middle class is shrinking in the United States. And we've got that happening at the same time that AI is displacing a lot of jobs that people have historically held from low income backgrounds. So you've got this two things happening. So if you love your country, giving the next generation a shot is something that I hope most people would think is a good idea, right? Let's make sure that everyone has the opportunity for the dignity of work. So that's what I would say to someone who has a heart for it or just loves our country. But selfishly, look, here's what's happening in most of urban America. Because there's a big thing about DEI and is like, what is DEI? Is it good? Is it bad? And what I like to just like make clear to everyone is that under the age of 21 in the city of Houston, only 20% of those people happen to be Anglo, happen to be white, right? So this is not is DEI good or bad? I mean, I obviously think diversity in the workforce is a really important, amazing thing. But even if you're totally opposed to that for whatever reason, political ideology or whatever else, what you have to appreciate is that under the age of 21 in urban America, the great majority of those kids happen to not be white. And it's really important that you need to be able to, every company needs to be able to attract, train, and retain the next generation of talent. And so I just think, regardless of whether you're left, right, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is we need great workers. We need to make sure the next generation has opportunities, and let's all make that happen.
I love that. We don't care what color you are, what sex you are, none of your background. Just we want to help get a really strong workforce. It's really important. You know, I went to, I'm going to tell on myself and hopefully my trainer is not watching. I went to Taco Bell and I went in because we had drinks from Starbucks. So we wanted drinks from Starbucks. We wanted to eat at Taco Bell. This was grandma and grandma day. And we get there and you have an option of a human or a screen. And they both do the same thing. And we started the screen because there wasn't a human there. And then I felt bad halfway through because the human came up and said, "Oh, I'm here to help you." And I had to make that decision in the moment. I'm halfway through the screen. So I went ahead and finished. But and look, I sell AI for a living. And for me, seeing that up close and personal, it's here, right? The way of working is changing. It's here. And so the dignity of work, when you said that, that really stood out. And there are so many beautiful people that are looking and navigating and trying to get employment right now. So yeah, you gave me one to go home and think about, Paul. I feel kind of bad. I should have aborted the digital and just said, yes, take my order. Because I even digitally, I still messed it up and I picked everything out.
Well, it's coming. And you know, look, there's a lot of positives that come along with AI too, right? Productivity gains, education should get a lot better. These are things that that are really important, especially as our debt increases, like our ability to become more productive as a society, to get ourselves out of this debt jam. Those are good things, but we're going to have to be deliberate about ensuring that we find opportunities for people. And I think we always have, and we will continue to. Right now, it looks a little scary, but I know we'll find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, I think everything looks scary before it levels out,
Right.
but I think we've got the right people on it. Well, Paul, as we end this interview, I just want to say once again, from my heart and the bottom of our community's hearts, that we thank you for everything that you're doing and that you're contributing and allowing others to have a purpose and be a part of that with you alongside you.
Thank you.
Is there anything that we missed that you would like to leave the audience with, or ways to connect with you and CareerSpring?
If you're even considering it all, if you're a listener, you're considering it all, getting involved in the CareerSpring mission, don't wait, because sometimes when we do that, like a week later, we forget. So like if you're interested in getting involved in CareerSpring, check it out today, careerspring.org. And we'd love for you to get involved, and we could do that in a very, very efficient way for your life.
Awesome. Thank you again. And for those of you who joined, thank you. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Go follow this man, go follow CareerSpring, and go volunteer, guys. Thanks. Until next time.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.